Happy New Year, everyone. Almost a month late, but this is going to be a great year. Way better than last year. How do I know that? Well, it's not as if there's a history of every fourth year sucking or something like that. Well, anyway, with the new year upon us, you know what that means. Every credible leaker is going to come out of the woodwork and tell us that this is for sure the year in which the new Nintendo system comes out. And granted, they have been wrong for like the past half a decade, but you know what? I actually do think that the new Nintendo system will at least be announced this year. All the evidence seems to be lining up for it, with studios receiving development kits for a new system, and Nintendo not really having a lot of games on their schedule for 2024. And most of the games that are coming out recently have been remakes and remasters, which aren't as resource intensive as full-fledged titles. And a lot of the remakes and remasters have been handed off to other studios, like with the Super Mario RPG remake, for example, which was handed off to RT Piazza. So, you know, it makes sense if they were making a new system, because they want to have their main development studios focusing on games for the new system instead of focusing on Switch titles. So with that, those are my reasons for why I think the new system is releasing this year. So in this video, I want to predict what the new system will be, what it will be called, when it will release, what games will come out on it, and the price point, as well as other things. So let's get into it. The obvious first thing to talk about here is what the new console is even gonna be. In the Nintendo Switch presentation back in January of 2017, Shinya Takahashi explained that every Nintendo console had some new feature that differentiated it from the other systems that came before it. The Super Nintendo added 2 more face buttons on the controller, as well as adding L and R buttons. The Nintendo 64 added an analog stick, which allowed for 3D gameplay. The GameCube added a handle on the console, which let you take it to school as a lunchbox or something, I don't know. The DS added a second screen which you could touch to control. The Wii added motion controls, and the Wii U added in a gamepad so you could play off the TV. However, even though Nintendo has innovated with every console before the Switch, I do not see a future in which Nintendo ever makes a console that isn't a hybrid ever again. The whole appeal of the Switch and why it's so popular is because of the fact that you can play games on the TV and then bring them on the go wherever you are. You can bring full-fledged AAA titles anywhere you go, whether you're waiting for the train, you're on a bus, or if you're just laying on the couch. The second you take the portability aspect away from the Switch, what you're left with is an underpowered home console with some good exclusives. So I personally believe that henceforth, Nintendo will go the Apple and PlayStation route of consoles. They will make it so that every system they make from now until possibly the end of the whole planet as we know it will just be another Nintendo Switch but with increased power and performance. So with that being said, I, as well as everyone else, think that the next Nintendo system will just be a Nintendo Switch but with better specs. Now, with that being said, that leads us to the obvious next question. What are the specs going to be like? So, we actually do have a good idea of what the specs could end up being. You see, back when the FTC vs Microsoft case was happening, when Microsoft was trying to acquire Activision Blizzard, internal emails ended up being shared. These emails show that in December of 2022, Activision and Nintendo executives met in order to discuss a next-generation Switch. And in those emails, a document was shared saying that the next Nintendo system will have similar performance to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. With that, I think we can safely say that the next Nintendo system will at least have the same performance as the PlayStation 4. I don't think that the performance is going to be as good as the PlayStation 4 Pro, but it might just be like in between those two. Better performance than the PlayStation 4, but not as good performance as the PlayStation 4 Pro. And I gotta say, this improvement of performance is 100% required at this point. AAA developers are having issues bringing their third-party titles onto the Nintendo Switch. And let's be real here, unless you got Panic Button involved, third-party titles coming to Switch fall into like 3 different categories. The first is that they actually take time to optimize the game in order to make it run smoothly on the Switch. The second is that they just throw the game on Switch without any regard for how it runs whatsoever, leading to a broken mess. Or they put their games onto Switch as a cloud version, which... don't talk about cloud versions ever again. And now that we're almost a decade after the Switch's release, we're at the point in which not only are third-party developers struggling to get their games to run on Switch, but even Nintendo's first-party titles are chugging along on this thing. Like, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, that barely runs on Switch. Hell, it like barely walks on the Switch. Tears of the Kingdom is a phenomenal game, but it's just begging to be put on better hardware. The game can barely run at a consistent 30 FPS, and there's a lot of times in which it slows down and shit pops in. It desperately needs to be put onto better hardware. Now, I've seen a lot of people complain about the fact that it's rumored that the new system will only be as powerful as the PlayStation 4, but when it boils down to it, that's all you really need. As long as you can get third-party games running on the system, it's all fine. Also, Valve's Steam Deck has the exact same performance as the PlayStation 4 as well, so... Well, anyway, the next thing to talk about is what this thing's even going to be called, so let's name this thing. So the community have come up with numerous names for the new Nintendo console, and I want to go through some of them right now. The first of which I believe is the most common, is the one I've seen used for most of the rumors and speculation of the next Nintendo console, and that is the Nintendo Switch Pro. Now, obviously this is based off of the PlayStation 4 Pro, which is the same concept we're going for here. The PlayStation 4 just increased performance, and while the name does work, and Sony have taken a lot of ideas from Nintendo, I don't think Nintendo's going to take this name from Sony. I think even though it does work, they're going to go with something else. The second most common name I see is the Nintendo Switch 2. And I mean, hey, it's a great name. It's simple, it gets right to the point, it's logical, it isn't confusing, and it also works in the event that Nintendo makes nothing but Nintendo Switch consoles until the end of time. It's unlike Microsoft, in which they have the Xbox, then the Xbox 360, then the Xbox One, then the Xbox One X, then the Xbox Series X. Like, that could get really confusing for casual consumers, whereas they can rest assured that every PlayStation would list be PlayStation 2, 3, 4, 5, so on. And while I do think it's a really good name, and my personal favorite of all the ones I'm mentioning here, it's not the one I'm picking. Now, the final common name I see a lot, other than the Nintendo Switch Pro and the Nintendo Switch 2, the Switchening Electric Switchaloo, is the Super Nintendo Switch. And that's a cute name and all, obviously a reference to the Super Nintendo. But the problem with that is, I don't think anyone's going to want to admit that they're in possession of a Super Switch. Like, no one's going to go to their friend's house and be like, hey, yo man, you want to play some Super Switch? No one's going to do that. So despite the fact that that's a cute name, I don't think Nintendo's going to go with that at all. And then beyond that, all we have left are pretty shitty names like the new Nintendo Switch or the Nintendo Switch U, which, yuck, I really hope they don't pick either of those names because that would be awful for all of us. But anyway, the name I'm picking isn't any of these. So, without further ado, I am hereby dubbing the next Nintendo console the Nintendo Switch Plus. I was thinking of maybe calling it the Nintendo Switch Deluxe, but I think that would get pretty confusing considering the fact that Nintendo has done deluxe bundles of systems before, like with the Wii U, and also the Nintendo Switch standalone has a console bundle with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so I think that would actually get confusing. The Nintendo Switch Plus, the name gets right to the point. It tells you right exactly what it is. It's the Nintendo Switch, but better performance. The end. It's just a plus version of the Switch. Also, if you shorten the name down, it's called the Switch Plus, or the SP. And unlike the Super Switch, I can actually imagine someone asking their friends if they wanted to play some Switch Plus. And now I realize that they're probably not going to pick this name. They're most likely just going to go with the Nintendo Switch 2, but this is what I would call the next Nintendo system. So now that I've established what I think the next Nintendo console will be, as well as what I think it'll be called, the obvious next thing to talk about is, when is this thing coming out? And you know what? I actually want to do you one better. I want to give a full timeline as to when I think the Switch Plus will be revealed and released. Alright, so obviously there's a high likelihood of a Nintendo Direct happening in February of this year, as Nintendo usually does February Nintendo Directs. I think in that Direct they're just going to show off some more of the games coming to Switch, like a little bit more Thousand Year Door footage, maybe there'll be new content in that game, a little bit more shown off of Princess Peach Showtime, maybe a few more remakes and remasters announced. But then near the end of February, I think Nintendo will make a tweet saying that they're going to announce the next Nintendo console in a week or so. Let's say on, I don't know, March 3rd. So on March 3rd, 2024, I think Nintendo will release a trailer showing off the Nintendo Switch Plus, announcing it. It'd be basically pretty much the exact same thing as the Nintendo Switch trailer, just showing off the console, maybe some new third-party games coming that aren't on the Switch already, and that's it. And then, a little after the reveal trailer drops on March 3rd, I think Nintendo will make another tweet, saying that around June 10th, when E3 season would normally happen, Nintendo will make a Nintendo Switch Plus presentation. The Nintendo Switch Plus presentation will be pretty much almost exactly the same as what the Nintendo Switch presentation was back in January of 2017. It won't be as long though, as there isn't that much to show off since it's literally just an enhanced version of the Nintendo Switch. Some announcements I think they'll make in the Switch presentation. The first thing is obviously the games, which I'll get to later. On the hardware side of things, however, I think Nintendo will show off the specs for the new system, as well as the battery life. So as I'm recording this, a leak just happened saying that the next Nintendo console will have an 8-inch LCD screen, so I think that they'll show off that as well in the Nintendo Switch Plus presentation. Beyond that, they'll show off the new updated Joy-Cons. These Joy-Cons will no longer feature drift, no longer have connection issues, and the original Joy-Cons from the Nintendo Switch will still work on the Switch Plus. The Switch Plus will also have a new dock as well. However, it will work in the old dock, it just won't be as powerful as with the new dock. Games on the Nintendo Switch Plus will run at a consistent 1080p 60fps on TV mode, and run at a consistent 720p 60fps in handheld mode. Other miscellaneous announcements I think they're going to make. I think that all of the Nintendo Switch Online stuff will port right over to the Switch Plus. If you have a Switch Online account, all the games, all the expansion pack and DLC and whatnot will all carry over to Switch Plus. The final other announcement I think they'll make is in regards to backwards compatibility. So a lot of people are worried that the next Nintendo console will not feature backwards compatibility, and now, if that didn't happen, that would be absolutely terrible. However, I don't think you need to worry about that. First of all, leaks suggest that the next Nintendo console will still have cartridges, and I don't see them making the next system have cartridges without allowing you to use the old cartridges for the Switch on it. The second reason why I believe backwards compatibility will be a thing, which I hate to have to give credit to GameXplain for this, but I do. They made a video sharing that the next system might have colored buttons. Now this may not seem like a big deal at all at first, but the reason they believe this is because the upcoming Thousand Year Door remake and Super Mario RPG both feature colored buttons like the Famicom for action commands. So the theory here is that Nintendo's developers are color coding the UI to match with new colored buttons on the new Joy-Cons for the new Nintendo console. If that were to be the case, that would mean that both Super Mario RPG and the Thousand Year Door remake would be playable on both the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch Plus, meaning that backwards compatibility would be a thing. Even beyond backwards compatibility though, I think colored buttons are just a nice thing to have. Whenever I play Switch games with anyone who hasn't played Switch games before and we play with one Joy-Con each, I find it really hard to explain to them what button they need to press to do what action, because the right Joy-Con, when you flip it sideways, the letters are flipped over. So it would be a lot easier, instead of saying press the Y button, no wait, the X button, no the A button, to just say press the green button or the blue button or the yellow button. It would be really nice. So my next prediction is that not only do I think backwards compatibility is going to be a thing, but I think any Nintendo Switch game that you play on the Switch Plus will immediately be boosted in quality and performance. I think any Switch game played on the Switch Plus will run at the same 1080p 60fps on TV mode and 720p 60fps on handheld mode as the Switch Plus games. Now, whether this is going to come for free or if you have to pay like a small fee in order to get the upgraded performance for the games, I don't know, but I do think that'll be a thing in some form. Then I think that the final trailer of the Switch Plus presentation will finally be a Metroid Prime 4 trailer showing gameplay, the whole shebang. It'll be a launch title for the Nintendo Switch Plus and it'll look amazing. It'll end out the show. The only thing left to talk about here is the price point. And now, while leaks are saying that the price is going to be $400 US, I think it's going to be a bit lower. My prediction is going to be around $350 US. It costs more than the base Switch while not being too expensive. So after the Nintendo Switch presentation happens, I think the release date of the Nintendo Switch Plus will be October 4th, 2024. They'll announce that at the very end of the Direct. Metroid Prime 4 trailer releasing simultaneously on Switch and Switch Plus October 4th. So to recap, February, Nintendo makes tweets saying that they're going to announce the Switch Plus on March 3rd. The Nintendo Switch Plus gets revealed on March 3rd, and then they announce that there's going to be a Nintendo Switch Plus presentation on June 10th. June 10th rolls around, they do the presentation, share the games and performance and whatnot. The system then gets revealed to launch on October 4th, 2024 at $350 US, and the launch title is Metroid Prime 4, as well as some other games I don't know. and then all the Switch Online stuff will carry over. Backwards compatibility will be a thing. If you put old Nintendo Switch games into the Switch Plus, it'll perform better. I'm not sure if that's going to be your fee or not or whatever, but those are all my predictions for the timeline. Okay, so now there's one final question we must ask. What games are going to come to the Nintendo Switch Plus? I don't know! Like, seriously, last year Nintendo, like, completely blew their entire load on every game that would have been perfect for the first year of the Switch Plus. And it literally happened like the same way as 2017 too. You have the new Zelda at the beginning of the year. You have the new Mario at the end of the year. In between you have a Splatoon. There's Pikmin 4 came out. Like, seriously, that would have been all perfect stuff for the first year of the Nintendo Switch Plus. Like, when you think of a new system coming out from Nintendo, what do you think of? Oh yeah, at launch you gotta have a new Mario or Zelda, right? No! They already put out a new Mario and Zelda last year, so I have literally no idea what games could come to the Switch Plus. If anyone in the comments can tell me like any ideas for new games, I would love to hear them, because I've been thinking about this for too long and I can't come up with a single one. Okay, well, maybe one game actually. So all the way back in 2017, Nintendo revealed that Metroid Prime 4 was in development. And then 2 years later they announced that they had to restart the entirety of the development. So a couple days ago actually marks the half-a-decade anniversary of them announcing that Metroid Prime 4 needed to restart development. So my thought is that I think Metroid Prime 4 will be the Breath of the Wild for the Nintendo Switch Plus, in that it's a launch title for the Switch Plus, releasing simultaneously on the Switch and the Switch Plus on the same day, October 4th. Also, additionally, I also believe that Nintendo in their February Direct will announce Metroid Prime 2 and 3 remasters in the same style as Metroid Prime 1 remastered, so that way you can play the entire trilogy on Switch before 4 releases. So, those are my predictions for the game library. All one games, because I have literally no idea what else they could possibly announce for the next system on release day or like first year. So those are all my predictions for the next Nintendo console. You know, it's nice to be back. I had to take a little over a month-long break because I got a bit burnt out from making so many videos in 4 months, but I'm back and I'm going to try to shoot for at least 2 videos a month, but sometimes I'm not going to be able to reach that, like with January, unless I just throw something else out, which I don't want to do. I want to at least make sure that I like the videos I put out before I put them out. Another thing I want to mention, when I first started this channel, like almost half a year ago at this point, I mentioned that I wanted to throw something on this wall here, like posters or whatnot, but now that I've been doing this for a while, I actually kind of like that there's nothing on this wall. It's great for editing. Whenever I need to throw an image up on the screen, instead of throwing it over a bunch of posters, I can just throw it over the blank wall. It works nice. Right side of the screen you have stuff, left side of the screen blank for editing. So I think that empty wall is here to stay. And no, I'm not just too lazy to throw up some posters, but anyway. That's going to be all for me today. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. What are your thoughts on the next Nintendo system? What do you think it's going to be? Do you think it's also just going to be an enhanced version of the Switch? Do you think it'll be something entirely different? Or do you think Nintendo's never going to make a new console until another 5 years or so? I'd love to read all your thoughts in the comments below. So yeah, let's see if I can remember how to do outros. I hope you all enjoyed. I'll see you in the next video, and have a nice rest of your day. Goodbye, everyone.